my workshop. My name's Colwin Way. These aren't live videos at the moment. I've again just taken a little bit of holiday, a little bit of leave, and so I thought I'm doing a series of recorded videos for you. These first two are going to be about making a three-legged stool. So we're just going to make it very, very simple. I've got the top of the stool, which we're going to attempt today. That's going to include the actual turning, the shaping, the sanding, and the drilling, of course. And then on the next session, we're going to look at turning the legs. A little bit of copy turning, but we're going to keep them very, very simple. We'll sand, finish, and then put some finishing oil on them as well. So I hope you like this one. It's a bit of fun. And then I'm going to do a further two recordings for you for next week as well. So we've got Finley behind the camera today. He won't be answering any questions, obviously, being recorded, but keep firing those questions because we will get to them. There's a whole team of Axminster guys and girls answering questions for us, especially whilst I'm away. But if there's anything that I need to get to, then when I come back, you'll get those questions answered. So let's have a look, see where we're going to start. So we're going to put the legs to one side for the minute. We are going to move around the workshop a little bit later on just to do the drilling. But before we do that, we're just going to prepare the blank. So I'm going to use a screw chuck. And the reason I'm using a screw chuck is I don't want loads of holes left in this seat. So the plan is I've made one central hole. So Finn, do you want to come just a little bit closer? I've made one central hole, so I've surface planed this. Now, if you don't have a surface planer, don't worry. A hand sander or anything like that, or even a hand plane, just get that nice and smooth. The reason I've done that, I don't want to have to tackle that again, otherwise I'll keep swapping the thing around to get one smooth side. So I've done that off the lathe first. So I've got a nice smooth surface here. I am going to tackle a little bit of this curvature whilst it's on the lathe, because I've got room, of course. But if you think about it, if you had lots of holes to worry about, then you've got to clean those up at the end. The idea here is once I've finished, I'm going to make a little plug. And I can make a feature of that plug. We can have a decorated plug. We can use a decorating elf, anything like that, and just plug that hole up to make a feature of the hole point. You see, I've also divided this up into three all ready for my holes to be drilled. Don't worry about that. It's as simple as I've set my dividers and I scribed a line around the outside here, made a bradawl point for my first one, and then used the dividers to work out equal 3 points. It's a very simple way of working. There is a math equation. I don't know what it is. So for me, that's all I've done. 3 equal points with a set of dividers. Okay. Then we draw a pencil line from the mark to center. That's really important for when we're drilling. We need what we call a sight line to be able to sight these up. Otherwise you could have the holes pointing out in all directions. And obviously then the legs will be. So that's quite important. So just 3 lines, center to our drill point. Okay, so I think we can attach this. That's nice and smooth. I will sand where I can get to as well once we start turning. But onto my screw chuck. The screw chuck's held in my C jaws. This is C screw chuck, and I've made a really quite a deep hole there. I want it a good amount of grip, obviously, all the way. There we go. Now, that's only a fairly small surface bearing area, so I'm going to use my tailstock just as a little bit of extra security. And the center I'm going to use a Live Pro drive. Well, not a drive, a Live Pro center. That's the type of center that you've seen me use many times with the prongs on them. But this time, I'm using a rotating version. So there's my drive. You would have seen that one fairly regularly. This is the live version of it. So this spins now. Now you imagine the grip that there is on there. So that's going to go in there, straight up onto the edge of the timber, wind on, really, really secure. Okay, going nowhere, that one. Tool rest, I want to sort the outside face first, just the way I'm working. So I use my little It's a lovely little robust, that's the make, robust tool rest there. I love these tool rests. They're really nice shape to use. They got this lovely strengthened bar on the top. Lovely tool rest, just in for us actually. They're a new product for us. I'm really excited about these because they're such a good quality tool rest. And they're available in all sorts. That's a small one there. I've got the curved bowl tool rest there, again robust. I think we've got a 14, there's a 4, 6, 12, all sorts of sizes. Inside, outside curve for bowls. So let's start. We're going to start with a bowl gouge. I'm just going to clean off the outside edge first, and then we're going to skim that front. So that's where my visor. This is a big lump of timber, so I want to make sure that I'm safe. Blaze speed to 0 to start us off with. Check to make sure nothing's touching the tool rest, and then we can start. Okay, Finn's going to keep an eye on the time for me, tell me how long in I am. And we're going to start with the handle nice and low and just skim that outside edge. It's a lovely bit of timber this. This is a piece of ash. So all we're doing at the moment is just getting down to a true round. Okay, so we'll stop and have a look at that, see what we've got, see if I'm fully down to that round. A little bit of a saw cut there. Okay, so we've just got to go a little bit further just to make sure. We're going to have the dust extraction on in a minute. This is a very dry bit of timber. It does throw up dust. There we are. So I think what we'll do now, we'll get some rough shaping to the outside of the bowl. So let's go with a slight curve. I'm not going to go too adventurous with a shape here. There we are. And now I'm going to just stop the machine, swap the tool rest out for a slightly longer one. And we'll start working on that front face and getting that curvature around as well, around the front edge. I'm going to have a slight dish in this one, I think. I think it looks quite nice. A little bit of a curve. So I'm just doing a roughing cut at the moment. I'm not doing any finishing cuts just yet. Just want to stop and see how much further I've got to go to get to.
Or it's solid timber now, so that's fine. So a little bit of a dish in the middle. Okay, we can turn the speed up. I'm just going to do a couple of finishing cuts. Firstly on this outside edge. I can get my gouge around. Don't forget bevel rubbing when you're doing a finishing cut. And then into the center. So that's looking pretty nice there. There's a few features in here as well, some nice little knots and things. Just gonna tackle this back edge and then we can start sanding. It's pretty good, but I'm just gonna scrape that. I can't quite just physically get my gouge around. I'll try, but I don't think I can get the gouge in the right orientation there. Not too bad. Yeah, that's all right. That worked well, actually. If you were struggling with that, what I would do is get your skew. That's a lovely little scrape, and that is not going to give you as good a finish as the gouge will, because the gouge is cutting, but it'll certainly give you a close second. Nice and gentle though. Don't push hard. If you push hard, you'll get tears. There we are. That's going to be fine. Okay, we'll remove the tailstock. We'll finish the centre and then we'll sand. That can come out of the way. Nice bit of wood. There's a little bit of rippling in here as well. So I'm just going to drop a gouge size to do that last little bit. So down to a 1/4 inch or 6mm bowl gouge. I'll give you the dimensions of this one in a minute. I know it's around about 60mm, so about 2 1/4 thick, a little bit more, 2 3/8 maybe. Let's have a look and see what we got. Remember just to test with your hands first. Make sure you've got any lumps and bumps out. That's looking pretty good. And maybe a little bit here. And that is about it. Good. Okay, time for sanding. So, nice little project. I used to do this as a beginner's project, say on a 5-day course, because it's an introduction on a little bit of copy turning with the legs, and also drilling on the lathe and getting those spacings right. But you know that now for drilling, I'm going to start with 100 grit. We're going to use a rotary sander as well. But there's some lovely ripples coming across there. I'm not quite sure whether you can make that out with the light and all, but oh yeah, we're getting a good finish. So dust extraction on now. So 100, 150, 240, 400. We're going to use a rotary sander as well. I'm going to spend some time making sure this is right. Okay, so we're going to get a good finish on this one. This is a special bit of timber. So, and we're going to start with a 180 on the rotary and work through 240, 400 as well. So, get them all laid out. So 400, 150, 240. And the start one is the 100 grit. So dust extraction on, of course. I'm going to wear my visor because this is going to kick up a fair bit of dust. I'm going to go quiet just for a little bit. So just stop the lathe. I've just started sanding really, but I've just stopped the lathe to see where any of the flaws might be. A little bit of tearing here, a little bit of tearing on the rippling, and of course the outside edge. So we can go to the rotary sander with a coarser grit, or you can go to a powered sander with a coarser grit as well. That would really help you. But I'm just going to persevere with my hand sanding. Have another double check. Now I wouldn't leave the 100 grit until I've got rid of tears and flaws, otherwise you end up chasing things around. So just keep going until they've got the outside edge is looking great, that's fine. So really it's just this area. Okay, that's fine. So now we're going to move on. We're going to move on to the 150 grit and then go down through the stages. so that was the 180, the 150. What I like to do now is go to the rotary with a 180 grit and make sure I get rid of all the marks I've now got there from the hand sanding. Once we've done that, because those are the ones that you normally find are the ones that are left behind at the end. So if we can get rid of them now, it's going to make a big difference to your final finish. So 180 grit on a rotary. Good. 240 grit. On the rotary. And then we're going to finish with 400 by hand and 400 on the rotary. Okay, so there we are. We're blessed again. We've got a beautiful bit of timber there. Lots of things going on in that. This is really cool here. So we'll get some finishing oil on that. I've chosen finishing oil. I do use finishing oil an awful lot, but I've chosen it because of its finish. It's that nice sort of satiny. It's not too gloss. It's not too garish sort of thing. And it'll leave a really resistant finish, so resistant to moisture, that sort of thing. So if it's outside, if this stool's outside, you'll be fine. So let's give it a good coat. We're going to sand that in. This is the nice bit, the exciting bit, because all those colours now start to jump out. This particular one, I'm a huge fan of the chestnut finishing oil, but I've run out of that, but I've got some fantastic equivalent. This is the Libron one. I do like the Libron one as well. They work really, really well. I'll just show you the jar in a minute. There we are, finishing oil. I'm going to do a little bit of the back. There'll be a little bit of work to do on the back as well. So I'm just going to put a rough coat, probably only a single coat on the back if I'm honest. There we go. Right, now we're going to sand that in, but we're going to sand it in with a 600 grit at very low speed. You don't want to get a face full of this stuff. So turn the lathe speed down to 0 if you've got that ability, and then turn the lathe on and slowly creep the speed. So that's, I want it about 150. There we are. So all the grain's rising up. You're then sanding it off, so you get a really sort of silky sort of finish and feel as well. There we go. It's looking nice. There we are. That'll do us. Now a little bit of tissue. Wipe off all that excess oil. Get that speed up a little bit now. Oil's going to take you, it's a few hours for it to fully cure. It'll be dry, sort of the outside surface touch dry within about an hour, but it won't cure for usually about 6 or 7 hours. Sometimes in the winter you might have to leave it overnight. Or in the UK winters anyway. There we are, just burnishing, getting some heat into the workpiece now. Getting rid of that excess oil. I like to give these usually around about 2 to 3 coats. Each coat you give it, you'll get a slightly higher shine. But make sure your second, third, fourth, fifth, all your subsequent coats are put on really, really lightly. Don't put too heavy a coat on, otherwise it'll stay sticky forever. You never get a good finish. That is going to be us for that section. Look how stunning that bit of wood is. I hope that light is glimmering at the right angle for you, because you've got some beautiful ripples going on there. Fantastic. Right, let's take that off the lathe. And we're going to move over to the pillar drill. So just before we do, I'm going to show you that surface.
You're just coming up to half an hour, aren't you?
Oh, fantastic. Well, one thing I want to do for you is just measure the diameter. I think it's around about a 12-inch blank, but let's just double check. So, I don't know, is that too shiny, Finn? Shall I turn the light on?
No, that's nice.
You get that lovely glimmer. Those ripples on this outside edge are really sort of striking. Nice bit of timber. And I put a very slight, I don't know whether the camera can get it, a very slight dish to the seat as well. Okay. That's the back at the moment. We got to plug that hole. And I might just sand this down a little bit with a hand sander just to get rid of all my pencil marks and the marks that I've used to guide me when I'm drilling. So diameter is, on this one we are, actually it's a little bit smaller, it's 10.5 inches, so that's around about 270 millimeters. Okay, Finn, yeah, if you could follow me to the drill now. I'm afraid we have to go past the untidy part of the workshop. I do apologise. Let's have a look at what we've got here. So that's my pillar drill. You've probably seen my pillar drill before. On it, we've got what we call a hinge board. The hinge board is what gives us our angles. And this is the one that I use at the skill centre. So this is what we would use for Windsor chair making, stool making, all that sort of thing, to get the right angles, or rocking chairs, that sort of thing. And this has to cope with so many different angles, from back sticks to arm supports to the legs, all sorts of things. And it's as simple as you've got a hinge here and you have different risers to give you a different angle. Okay, I've chosen 13 degrees as my leg angle here.
So it's that angle there is going to be 13 degrees. It's not a massive splay on these stools. They're a tripod, remember, they're 3 legs. It's not like you can recline on these. The more of a splay you get, there is a point where they become weak. But obviously we want it to be stable at the same time. So I've chosen 13 degrees. It seems to work for these stools. I've done it for years now, and it's a nice sort of combination. The other thing that I will say, we've got a centre line running down through, and that centre line is going to line up with my sight lines that I've made. You won't see them on the camera, but like I said, I've got a sight line from centre to where I'm going to drill, and I'm going to line that up with my centre line. That makes sure that the splay then comes out equally on all 3 of those legs. Okay. Now we have got some anti-slip tape here. The anti-slip tape though is abrasive. I've already finished this side, so I don't want it to mark it. So I'm using some router matting. Again, I've used router matting an awful lot for different projects, and it's such a good investment. It comes in a roll. You get about 1 metre square, and you can use it for all the different jobs, whether it's push plates, whether it's things like this, just protecting bowls when you turn them around. It's really, really good stuff. It won't break the bank either, and yeah, lovely stuff to use. I've set my depth. I don't want to go through this. Well, in this occasion, I don't want to go all the way through. I'm not going to make a through leg with a wedge. We're just going to do a stop tenon. A stop mortise for the tenon. So I've actually set the drill, so it is going to stop before we get too far. Okay, that's deep enough. The drill size in this time, I'm using a 26mm drill, but anything 25, 28 seems to work on these stools. Don't go thinner than that, otherwise they become fairly weak. Okay, so let's line up. So Finn, you decide where you want to go. I'm going to stand here. Tell me if you need light.
No, that's good.
Is that all right? I'm going to just change the design style. I'm going to bring that, bring the holes in a little bit further. Because I've made this radius here, it's a little bit too close to the edge. So I'm going to bring them in another 10mm. As long as you do it equally, then you're fine. Another 10mm. And just follow your sight lines, really. You can measure this. I'm just doing this for speed, really, just so you see what I'm doing. There we are. Let me just get my rule. It needs to come in a bit further. Ooh. There we go, right. First hole. This is a Forstner bit, not a sawtooth bit. Difference being a Forstner bit has got a blade on the outside edge, not a sawtooth. The idea of these is to create a clean cut in side grain, which this is. If I wanted to cut into end grain, then I'd go for the sawtooth, the chisel type that was going to cut nicely in end grain. I'm lining everything up, lining my sight lines up, and lining up the drill point. And I'll put my specs down and we're ready to go. There we are. Going to stop the drill. One thing, and we always talk health and safety. I don't drum it in on every video because we just don't have the time to talk a huge amount, but turn the drill off every time you move it. I've seen so many people just go and clear shavings away like that with drill bits moving, and it's a recipe for disaster. Your fingers are always going to get caught. So stop the drill, make sure everything's nice and clean, bring them around and start your next one. Okay, much more of a tilt than this, and I'd be looking at clamping this down.
final one. There he is there somewhere. There he is. There we are, in the right place. Okay, so there we are, all the holes equally drilled, all splaying directly out from the centre as well. Okay, and if you didn't have the sight lines, you could be splaying this way, you know, you're not quite sure. So that's why the sight lines are there. Okay, all right, Finn, come on over. There we are. So we're gonna, on this one, on this project, we're gonna have this stool fairly high. I'm using 18-inch legs here. That's why the splay hasn't been too much. Now, that's a nice tall stool, so it's not what I would call a traditional milking type stool. Don't need to be that low. This is a nice, fairly tall stool with about that angle to the legs. My plan, I'm going to go very, very basic with these legs. And not do any detail, just a very nice taper. We're going to get larger toward the bottom of the leg, and then obviously taper into our 26mm. That's for next time. So 3 legs to do next time. So we're going to whip through one, get the design right, and then we'll copy that on the next 2, obviously sanding and finishing all the way, and finally gluing up together. So guys, until next time, I hope you've enjoyed that. The dimensions are there. We've got, what does I say, 10.5 inch on the diameter, around about 2 1/4 on the thickness. These are 2x2s or 50x50 by 18 inches long. Okay, so if you wanted to prep up, get all the timber ready for the next session, please do. So I've been Colwin. Thank you ever so much. See you next time, same place, same time, at my workshop, 4 o'clock. Until next time, happy turning. Bye bye.